are asking the court to set aside their divorce settlements because their former spouses have deliberately misled both them and the court as to their financial circumstances.
So the men in question, they're accusing them of hiding their assets, basically?
That's right, yes.
And under British law, it tends to be, I mean, I was just reading an article saying that London is the divorce capital of the world in terms of it sides with the wife in terms of they get 50-50.
Well, London is seen by many as the divorce capital of the world for wealthy couples, because exactly for the reason you say, particularly in lengthy marriages, the courts will apportion assets 50-50. So there's a huge incentive to the wealthier spouse to try to hide his assets.
So the Supreme Court, they will be judging it on evidence, obviously. How do they find out if a husband, the two husbands in question, have hidden assets?
Well, they will look into it and hear what's said. In both of the courts below, the husbands actually accepted that they had not given full and frank disclosure, which is what the law requires them to do. There is an ongoing duty to make full and frank disclosure all the way through the process.
So in terms of if these two test cases, I suppose they are, aren't they, in this instance, if they are found in favour of the two women involved and the assets are found to be concealed, could this open floodgates? I mean, would past settlements be revisited, and how far back could it go?
Well, the court has to determine whether, in every instance where there has been deliberate misrepresentation, the settlement ought to be set aside, or if that should just happen where there has been a material non-disclosure, that's to say where the non-disclosure has had a significant impact or would have had a significant impact on the outcome in the court below.
What do you mean by significant impact?
Well, where it would have altered the decision made or altered the financial settlement. Here, where people have been misled as to the assets of their spouse, they may have been led to accept a settlement which was much financially less favourable to them than they were entitled to.
And in terms of the women in question, how can they find out if their husbands are concealing assets? I mean, are we talking about private investigators? Is it up to the lawyers? How do they go about finding that out? Because presumably if they're hiding them well. These are wealthy men. They have means.
Well, here it is tricky, and yeah, the lawyers will instruct investigators. I mean, this is a case which will have an impact not just for wealthy couples who can afford to do all of this research into whether their spouses may be hiding assets. Less well-off people may be in a difficult position if they can't afford to instruct lawyers but have a suspicion that their spouse is hiding assets. They may just have to accept the settlement on offer and accept what their spouse is saying.
Yeah, we talk about this, if it's ruled in the women's favour, being a landmark case, but as you mentioned, those of more moderate means, the cost of investigating whether their spouse is hiding assets could actually outweigh what they'll get in the end. So it's a very difficult dilemma for them, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, in this case, if the court decides that any fraudulent wrongness or wrong statement should lead to the settlement being set aside, then it could open the floodgates. But as I say, for less wealthy people, where the matrimonial pot is smaller, any fraudulent wrong disclosure could have a much more significant impact on the overall decision.
You do wonder why this is only just happening now, because in a lot of divorce settlements you do hear women saying, well, he's got much more money than he let on. Why is it that courts have tended up until now perhaps to turn a blind eye to this divorce fraud? Is it because it's costly, time-consuming, hard to prove?
Right, I think it's probably a mixture of the above. The lawyers that I've spoken to have said that there is an issue in the family courts with parties being dishonest, and the court has, for too long, turned a blind eye to it. Here, I know a lot of lawyers are really hoping for some robust guidance from the Supreme Court.